Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Casmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. From Apiate to Konongo, calls intensify for government to take steps to enforce regulations on the handling of explosives. Also coming up this afternoon, pressure is mounting on the government to repeal legislative instrument allied 2462, which allows mining in forest reserves, as civil society organizations intensify their campaign against illegal mining. And much later on the program, Ghana Premier League resumes this weekend, 2 weeks after suspension following death of Asante Kotoko supporter Poli. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, Ghana faces escalating dangers due to poorly regulated explosives, highlighted by a recent fire incident in Konongo, Odumase, in the Ashanti region that claimed 3 lives. The blast left a deep crack and caused structural cracks in nearby buildings, underscoring the catastrophic risks of unregulated mining materials. This tragedy echoes the 2022 Apiate disaster, where an entire village was leveled by explosives detonating during transportation. Now, despite a government committee's recommendations to tighten controls on the manufacture, transport and use of explosives, compliance appears lax. Concerns over accessibility persist. 2 years ago, a local fisherman disclosed to journalist Stanley Nibleo how readily dynamite could be acquired on the open market, signaling systemic failures and oversight.
Which we, the fishermen, call it dynamite. And honestly, it is not easy to have access to it or get hold of this thing. But whilst you've been able to produce this, and you've done a yeoman's job. It is not a proper thing to be handled around this landing beach, but whilst you've brought it, because even if I wanted to purchase or have an access to it, I don't think it will be an easy task for me. Over here in Axim jurisdiction, the fishermen over here didn't use this in their fishing expedition, unless you go to Hunter West. Certain communities like Achonwa, Katakwara, Pumpnai, Nyuhu, there are smaller communities there, which it is being known that they use dynamite in their fishing. But in Axim here, we pry the person, most of them doesn't use it, but I can confirm that about few of them, if you round it about 100%, about 2, 3, or 4% of the fishermen. And so very few of the fishermen use explosives. The business people who has come and joined the fishing industry, they want to recoup the money that they invested in the industry within a short time. And so all manner of things that they will use to have enough catch is what they are employing. Then comes the dynamite in fishing.
And you had a fisherman speaking earlier to Stanley Nibleo about laxity or systemic failure in oversight when it comes to acquiring dynamite. So what are these regulations that the fishermen talked about? We do have with us Wisdom Safo in studio to take us through that. Wisdom, what have you gathered so far?
Okay, thank you very much, Beatrice. So it's not that you don't have a regulation, it's about compliance. So the current regulation regulating the use of explosives is the Minerals and Mining Explosives Regulation 2012 LI 2177. And among some of the things listed in there is license requirement, and it states that a person cannot sell or deal in explosives unless they have a license granted by the Minerals Commission. The application for a license must be in writing, made by a qualified explosive manager, and it must include an acceptable within the operational plan. And also, for you to deal in explosive, you have to have permit in case you want to sell or dispose it of. You have to have a permit, and a dealer must obtain a permit. That's a Form N, according to the regulation, before selling or disposing of a specific type of explosive. And the seller must notify the Chief Inspector of Mines about the type of the type and quantity of the explosive that he or she is dealing in. And you also have storage and handling. Explosive must be kept in a licensed magazine and not supplied to unauthorized persons. Dealers must not sell expired, damp, or defective explosives unless approved by the Commission. And for renewal and record keeping of the licenses are valid for 1 year. So if you have an explosive or a license to sell explosive or deal in explosive,
you have to renew it every 12
year.
months.
Exactly. So licenses are valid for 1 year and must be renewed at least 1 month before expiration. And dealers must submit monthly reports on explosive transaction using their Form H. And finally, selling explosive without a permit is illegal and punishable by a fine of up to 1,000 penalty units or a maximum of 4 years in prison. So we have the regulation, but the issue has always been the compliance. We all recall what happened in Apiati some 3 years ago, where it claimed a lot of lives, and the recent one that has happened in Konongo. So there must be a collective effort to see how people comply with these regulations.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Wisdom Safo. Let's speak to Emmanuel Kwesi-Bani. He's a retired mining engineer and explosives consultant. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello, Mr. Baini, can you hear us?
Yes, I do.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I mean, the recent Konongo explosion that we're talking about now, we are told involved dynamite illegally sold at shops patronized by illegal miners. Would you say you're surprised that such dangerous items, that require expertise to handle are being sold on the open market within settlements?
I was highly surprised to hear that explosives are being sold on the open market, and people could go there and say, "Oh, Mommy explosive to me. Oh, Mommy and Pa." You see, before explosives are brought into the country, those who order it will get permission from the Minerals Commission, Mines Department, for the permission for the quantity and specific types. When they arrive at the harbor, they are cleared into licensed, recognized magazines. And anybody who will want to buy must have a purchase license, which lasts for 1 year. And the license must be issued by the Minerals Commission. The Minerals Commission must know you officially, what you are going to do with it, where you are going to use it. You can't buy explosives for a magazine in, say, in Sawom, a particular quarry, and then go and use it at Konongo. It's not allowed. The Minerals Commission will trace every specific type of explosive and quantity you buy from the licensed magazine, and you are required to make returns to show the quantities you have used over a period.
Indeed. So you're just taking us through the procedure as you've known it, and indeed my colleague took us through how it's supposed to be as well. But why are you surprised? Is it that when you were in practice, as it were, these regulations were followed strictly? Because it doesn't look like that is the case now.
Yeah, it's not very. people are handling the explosives without permission. And you see, some of these things come from quarries and mines who have the license to purchase legal, and the black men or other people sneak away with such explosives to go and sell.
Let me ask you this before you go, Mr. Biney. Aside from the regulations that we have, how do you think we can sanitize the system to make it safe for everyone?
I beg pardon?
I was asking how you think we can sanitize the system to make it safe for everyone beyond the regulations.
You see, we have Minerals Commission, engineers who supervise the sales and do the inspection for the magazines. And those people who are giving the explosive to use, especially the blacksmen, they must not have the right quantities of estimates. Sometimes they overestimate and then sneak away with the surplus. So supervisors must be very strict on the quantities they issue and supervise. Probably they should go and stand there at the blasting site and make sure the quantities which are issued are used.
I'll have to end it here. Emmanuel Kwesi Biney, he's a retired mining engineer and explosives consultant, giving us his view on that Konongo Odumase explosion. And still talking about the environment, pressure is mounting on the government to repeal legislative instrument LI 2462, which permits mining in forest reserves, as civil society organizations intensify their campaign against illegal mining. Convener and Deputy National Director of Operations at Arusha, Ghana, Darobosu, asserts that the delay in repealing the law is emboldening illegal miners to continue their activities in forest reserves. The group also called for the removal of the head of the Minerals Commission and police commanders in the Chebi area, accusing them of undermining efforts to combat illegal mining, particularly in the Atiwa Forest Enclave. He made these remarks at a news conference right here in Accra.
About 3-4 days now, we've had a smooth roll. I would say smooth because we haven't had much cases.
The Environmental Protection Mining and Forest Reserve Regulation 2022 LI 2462 has created a legal framework that permits mining in Ghana's forest reserves, ushering in an unprecedented state-sponsored target and assault on forest reserve, undermining decades of conservation and sustainable management of forests in Ghana. Previous and past governments agree that LI 2462 is counterproductive to our sustainable development and must be revoked. There is therefore no reason why this law continues to exist in our statute books. LI 2462 must be revoked with immediate effect, and all mining concessions issued for forest reserves in Ghana revoked as well. Secondly, ban tributor mining lease allocation regime and revoke non-compliant mining leases. The tributor mining regime has not benefited from critical monitoring and scrutiny, and therefore there is widespread misuse and abuse of tributor mining regime. There is therefore urgent need for improved monitoring and compliance for all mining lease licenses that permit tributor arrangement. We are also calling for the online publication of all tributor mining permits with accompanying tributor tokens and codes so that communities in mining hotspots can do their own verification to improve mineral and mining governance in Ghana.
And you heard right there, Daryl Bosso, his convener and Deputy National Director of Operations at Arusha, Ghana. As you may be aware, President John Mahama will chair a special cabinet session today on the 2025 budget. Friday, that is today, March 7, the Minister for Government Communications, Felix Kwachiofosu, announced in a Facebook post that he will hold a press briefing after the session to update the Ghanaian public on the outcome and matters arising during the week. The Finance Minister is expected to present the 2025 budget and estimate on March 11, days after the conclusion of the economic dialogue, which made several recommendations on revamping key sectors of the economy. Now, Raging Fire has swept through a fueling station at Bamere in the Techiman municipality, reducing 2 buses, a fuel tanker and Srimati's cars to unrecognizable wreckage. Fortunately, no fatalities have been reported so far. Eyewitnesses say that fire started from the hose when the fuel tanker was discharging fuel into the pump, catching up with the fuel tanker, which ended up burning 5 other cars parked at the fueling station. The delay in attending to the fire was due to logistical constraints, since the only fire tender in the municipality is said to be faulty. Now, acting operations manager for the region, ADO 1 Francis Opoku, spoke to the media earlier.
Vehicles that involved, there are 6 vehicles which was involved with the fire. So, by God's grace, we would bring the fire under control at 20:04 hours. So currently, that is what to the public, that they should allow us to do our work. We are there for them. They should allow us to do our work. That is why we will plead to the public. When we arrive, they start throwing stones, they start attacking us, of which is not good. If you wound the officer or if you use stone on him, how will he get the energy to perform the task? So we will plead to the public that in future they should not let certain of the source of that thing should happen again. Over 6 cars, 2 buses, 1 fuel tanker, and 2 cars.
And you had a fire officer there in the Techiman area following that fuel tanker fire. Let's speak to Belinda Tete. She is our Bono East correspondent. Belinda, what more can you tell us beyond what we just heard from the fire officer?
Right. So yesterday evening, after the time I got there, the fire had already ravaged the fueling station. Some 6 cars have been burnt beyond recognition, including the fuel tanker that was discharging fuel. So this is how the fire started, according to eyewitnesses. The tanker that was discharging fuel into the fuel pump caught the fire. So the fire started with a hose through which they were discharging the fuel, and then got through the hose into the fuel tanker, which exploded and got into the other cars that were parked at the fueling station. It started around 7. And after that time, they called the fire service. And according to eyewitnesses, or according to information I got, the fire service here couldn't come early. They had to inform the next fire service from Nkwanza. They had to come with their fire tender because the only fire tender in the municipality is faulty. So even as when they were called, they couldn't come. They had to wait till Nkwanza came with their fire tender to attend to the fire. So after the time they came, the fire had already gotten out of hand and the people were angry. So out of anger, they tried attacking them. And to the extent that they have to even inform the police to come and assist, offer them security to be able to do their job. So due to logistic constraints, they couldn't come on time. And as when they came, 6 cars had been destroyed, 1 tanker, 2 buses, and 3 salon cars, matters had been destroyed beyond recognition. So that was what really happened yesterday night.
Tell us, you said that the people got angry. Was anybody injured as a result of that?
No. Fortunately, nobody was injured, and we didn't record any fatalities.
But hours after the incident, how are people reacting to this?
Well, everybody has tried moving about their various businesses, but they are really not happy with the fire service, especially with the fact that the only tender in the municipality has to be faulty, and as and when the need be that they have to respond, they can't because the only fire tender is faulty. I mean, the Bono East regional capital is huge. It's quite huge, and so for the regional capital to have only one fire tender is a problem. So people have been really complaining. They want government or stakeholders or whatever to respond and, bring them more fire tenders so that in subsequent happenings that there should be a fire outbreak, they can respond on time.
Thank you so much, Belinda Tete. She is Bono East regional correspondent. Some 22 minutes past the hour of 12. This is the midday news on 3FM 92.7. Some health issues now in the outgone. Akufo Addo administration launched the free dialysis program in December 2024 under the National Health Insurance Scheme as a policy to respond to repeated concerns about dialysis costs in the country. However, many still question whether the new government will sustain and adequately fund the program. Well, Sarah Prinkro has been investigating the impact of this. Listen.
This patient who has been battling the condition for 10 years, looking fit and healthy today. This would not have been the case just a few months ago when she could barely afford a single dialysis session needed to survive.
Before no, na me ntumi nyehwe.
I couldn't do anything, not even to attend church service. People were ignoring my calls. An emotional 32-year-old Gladys says she never wants her hopes for a better life shattered again. I don't work. My only support system is also struggling. Now, I can go and come. So if he cancels it, then we are doomed. Her friend Priscilla, 29, who has also been battling the disease since she was 21, says she has never felt more hopeful since the introduction of the free dialysis policy. Once a week or sometimes once in 2 weeks. My family is exhausted, so they have stopped supporting. Even my church has also stopped the support. I had no help at all, but now I can do everything on my own. Before I cry and say I me Pia Bonti and I say me small boy be fear on no be sunimu no di me pie. And I say me crap woman na me de anante. Me ne ba ye ne de nyame adom. Me hoye metimi nante metimi ko bebia me pese me ko bia no. Eduane bia metimi di sanya pese me bomb life no. Metimi. Although they continue to receive treatment at various health facilities, both Gladys and Priscilla are mindful of the policy's timelines. I joined the Betoya Sopa because Genyan say for just 3 months. And no, they are doing saying after 3 months, no, Fufroya will be Obetwasoana. We are wondering the next step by this current administration. I say, will be trim.
Sarah Pinko filed that report. Now, former Foreign Affairs Minister and Secretary General Special Representative for Libya and head of the United Nations Support Mission in Libya, Hannah Tete, has encouraged people in positions to create a enabling environment for women to thrive. Her comment comes as the world prepares to celebrate Women's Day tomorrow, and she spoke to me earlier. Listen.
When I was the Special Representative of the Secretary General to the African Union, the UN Secretary General Special Representative to the African Union, on the 20th anniversary of Security Council Resolution 1325 and its affiliated resolutions on women and peace and security, I felt that the work that African women peacemakers had done was to a large extent undocumented and unknown. And so with the AU Commissioner for Political Affairs at the time, Madam Minata Samate, we did a joint publication called She Stands for Peace, 20 Years, 20 Stories. And what we did with She Stands for Peace was that we invited African women who had been involved in these processes to tell their stories and to send whatever information they felt they wanted to share to a particular site that we created for aggregation of all of these stories. And of course, we wanted to make sure that what we're saying were factual. So we used a lot of the UN offices in the country to give cross-reference the stories that we were told to find out whether indeed this was what had happened. Had this woman been involved, as she said she had been? And in that book, She Stands for Peace, 20 Women, 20 Stories, I was surprised to find out just how many brave and courageous women have stood up to do things not expecting to be celebrated, not expecting their work to be highlighted, but just to make a difference in their countries and to help countries that were going through instability to return to stability and to progress. And that's just one example. I could mention others, but the point I'm making is, if you have the opportunity to lift up women anywhere, you should do so. Because by so doing, and having, that critical mass of women being shown as capable, as confident, as effective, just creates so much more opportunities for many other women.
And the full interview will play later. That was Hannah Tete, former Foreign Affairs Minister and Secretary General's Special Representative for Libya and head of the United Nations Support Mission in Libya. That's it for the news here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us today. Have a good evening. Log on to good afternoon. Log on to streetnews.com for more news.
Accra, Ghana, Africa, and worldwide. Join us on Inspirational Gospel Mix this and every Sunday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Get ready for the revolution. What you say now? I just wanna praise you.
3FM.
King of kings and Lord of lords. Come holy one.
what is your favorite scripture?
Well, my favorite scripture is Romans 8:28, and it says, all things work together for the good to them that love the Lord. Kwame, that is absolutely my favorite scripture.
Yes, your inspirational gospel mix, a moment to get inspired with the best of inspirational songs and interviews to get you prepared for the new week on every Sunday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. with me, your big brother, Kwame Adu, mixing G, mixing gospel. You can't miss it. You are blessed as you listen. 3FM 92.7.
It's the battle of the teams in a 3FM 60-day Fit Start Challenge. Which team will come up tops? Will it be Team Comfort or Team Helen? Will age and tact triumph? Or will youth and energy win? Call or WhatsApp on these numbers: 0532 300 927 or 0532 200 927. Now, to join Team Comfort or Team Helen and enjoy holistic wellness coaching, specialized diet plans, and cooking tutorials, thrilling exercises, challenges, and activities, plus many exciting rewards. 3FM Fit Start, sponsored by Daffy's Health and Beauty, Bill's Microfinance and UGL Premier, and supported by Blue Skies and the Ghana Medical Association. 3FM Fit Start, your health, your journey, your victory.
Afternoon and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, barring any last-minute changes, National Insurance Commission (NIC) is expected to review motor insurance premiums before end of March. We'll hear from Commissioner Dr. Abiba Zakaria.
Let's see how far this goes, and probably maybe in the first quarter of the year.
Also, Ghana ranks poorly in economic transformation. Africa Center for Economic Transformation (ACET) cites weak and unstable progress over 2 decades. Plus, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana urges petroleum sector reform to stabilize fuel prices. We'll hear from Executive Secretary Duncan Amwa. I am Bismarck Ausa. These stories and others lined up for you. Stay with me. Thanks for your company. Now to our very first story. The National Insurance Commission (NIC) is set to review motor insurance premiums before end of the month, barring any last-minute changes. The move, which is expected to impact motorists across the country, comes amid ongoing discussions about the sustainability of insurance pricing in the face of rising claims. The NIC earlier suspended a proposal for 10% upward increase in motor insurance tariffs. Dr. Abiba Zakaria is Commissioner of the National Insurance Commission.
The request for the motor enhancements came from our partners, the GPRTU. This is because at the moment, if you should suffer a loss as a result of a motor, so somebody breaks a leg, somebody destroys another person's property or something happens, the compensation they have is 6,000 Ghana cedis. So they came to us and said that 6,000 was not good enough. They wanted an increase, looking at the economic situation as it were. So they asked for an increase of 8,000. And like you know, for everything that you want more of course you have to pay more for. And so the request for the additional 2,000 Ghana cedis to make it 8,000, insurance are charging for the year 40-something Ghana cedis, which amounts to about 13 cedis a month. So for us, we are happy to grant their request to improve their limit. When they suffer through an accident or people suffer because of a motor accident, they can be compensated adequately. And we are happy to do this. So we're still in conversations. Let's see how far this goes, and probably maybe in the first quarter of the year.
And that was Commissioner of the National Insurance Commission, NIC, Dr. Abiba Zakaria. Moving on, a new report has revealed that Ghana performed poorly in economic transformation with an overall ATI score of just 19.1 out of 100. According to the Africa Center for Economic Transformation, ACET, Ghana's progress on economic transformation has been weak and unsustainable for the last 2 decades. The Africa Center for Economic Transformation, ACET, has said Since 2000, the country's overall score has consistently hovered far below the African average of 30.3, only reaching a high of 20.6 in 2014. It therefore wants diversification of production and exports, which it describes as a crucial catalyst for economic transformation.
Economic transformation in Ghana has been deteriorating, and there's the need to reset, just as the government is talking about, and to be more intentional on focusing on what really matters for the economy to transform. And we see that the country's economy is not diversifying. It's still very much dependent on primary commodities, exports and production. It is not competitive, and productivity has not really improved.
Asset has also pointed out that Ghana's poor progress in export competitiveness reflects the country's limited integration into global and regional value chains, highlighting a lack of product diversification and export sophistication, constraining the country's competitiveness.
If you're a chocolatier in Ghana, you cannot buy cocoa directly from a farm and turn it into cocoa solids, okay? And if you buy it from the cocoa board, you are taxed, I believe it's a 40% premium on it, okay? So your first raw material is expensive. Secondly, you are importing your sugar because we don't produce enough sugar, even though we have lots of sugar cane. Thirdly, you are importing your milk.
You heard Senior Director of Research Policy and Programs at Asset, Dr. Edward Brown, and Chief Executive Officer of Asset, Mavis Owusu-Gyamfi, on Ghana falling behind in economic transformation. Now, Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, COPEC, Duncan Amwa, has called for comprehensive reforms in the petroleum sector to ensure affordable and stable fuel prices. This follows the Bank of Ghana's suspension of the gold for oil policy due to unspecified policy and operational challenges. The initiative, introduced by the previous government, aimed to stabilize domestic fuel prices, ease pressure on foreign exchange reserves, and ensure a steady supply of petroleum products.
If we don't do the hard fixes, and then it is down to government people thinking that they've been able to find innovative ways. Let's buy gold, take the gold to go and exchange for the oil, come and sell the oil, buy gold, go and exchange. And then you hear Bank of Ghana say it made some losses. It tells you that the program is not that sustainable. Unfortunately, you would have a situation where the new government is also looking to position for something called gold board. If you don't do the hard or the heavy liftings, and you jump from gold for oil to gold board, gold coin, gold whatever, and thinking that that will be the panacea to the crippling fuel pricing you have in Ghana, you are deceiving yourself. You are just polishing on debt, because your import cover will still reflect 100% importation of finished products. And that will mean you need more dollar. If you are buying gold, you need more gold. And that system cannot be transparent, because then you'll be dealing with a whole value chain of interest bodies or groups or businesses that would be seeking to make profit at every end of the chain. So one fuel importation, interest bebre.
And that was Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, Duncan Amwa, ending Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Hausa. For more business stories, please check out our website 3news.com. Thanks for your company.